In Revelation chapter 16, verse 12, we read, "The sixth angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its waters was dried up to prepare the way for the kings from the east." Now, in order for any past fulfillment of the book of Revelation to have taken place, this clearly would have had to have been in the past. Yet if we look, we don't readily find an event in the 2,000 years since this was written where the Euphrates River was dried up. However, we do find one instance where the river was dried up, and that is in the invasion of Babylon by King Cyrus in about 538 BC. In this event, the walls of Babylon were virtually impenetrable, but there was one entrance on the river Euphrates, and King Cyrus dammed up the river, diverted it, so that the river literally dried up. The army marched underneath the gates of the city. When the water went down, they were able to march right underneath the gates of the city. They invaded it, and they conquered the nation. This was by King Cyrus, and this was the transition into the Persian Empire. While this historic fact is not as well known in today's modern readers, this event would have stuck out clearly to anyone in John's day. It begs the question then, with so many Old Testament references and historic references throughout the book of Revelation, is the reference in Revelation chapter 16, verse 12, the historic drying up of the river Euphrates, or is it a yet future event? If we read in Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 9, we read, "What has been is what will be, and what has been done is what will be done, and there is nothing new under the sun." What we often find in prophetic writing is that similar patterns come through, but it doesn't necessarily always match the exact fulfillment of the original time. That said, if Revelation chapter 16, verse 12 is referring to a past event, namely trying to bring to mind the invasion of Babylon by King Cyrus, then all of the exact details don't necessarily need to fit. What we're seeing here in Revelation chapter 16 is the destruction of the Fourth Empire, the destruction of Babylon. The bowls of wrath are being poured out and it's being undone. In that way, what would be in view most probably here is the kingdom of Rome. Rome would be destroyed, but Rome didn't have its center, its capital, or really a major thing on the Euphrates. Its major fronts throughout its history were in Europe, and with rivers like the Rhine and whatnot. Historically, here we see raiders were able to cross several of the rivers in Europe towards the end of Rome's days with it freezing up. Instead of it being dammed up, it froze up. The kings of the East raided Rome, destroyed it, sacked it, and set it greatly back. In that way, when we're looking at Revelation chapter 16, verse 12, when did the great Euphrates dry up, is the question. And it's a very, very real and very honest question. However, because the drying up of the Euphrates River was such a well-known thing in its day, perhaps even known by everyone, of what happened, when it happened, why it happened. This was not too long ago before, and it was the history of the Roman Empire. This event could clearly have a second fulfillment. This is a mere reference to that event. It doesn't have to be in the same way that there are symbols throughout the book of Revelation. The great river Euphrates here can merely mean a symbol referring to perhaps the Rhine, the Danube River, one of the rivers that held back the kings of the East, the Goths, the Vandals, the raiders, and the barbarians that came in and sacked Rome. This is a very plausible understanding when you realize how well known the drying up the Euphrates River was. There's no need for a future fulfillment because it clearly had a sufficient fulfillment in the past.